The events take place in the Dahua Kingdom, Tangdu Prefecture. The heavenly barrier rises above. The scene unfolds on the outskirts, where, between the abyss and a crowd of indignant people, stands a young man. The aggressive crowd accuses the young man of colluding with demons and threatens him with death. After the threats, the young man is struck by a magic barrier. He breaks down and falls into the abyss. His expression is tired, and blood is flowing from his mouth. The scene shifts to a newborn baby wrapped in a yellow cloth. A young maid takes the child in her arms and informs her mistress that a boy has been born. The maid places the screaming child on the bed of the exhausted mistress. The young mother turns to the child and gently passes her hand over his cheek, whispering the cherished words, "My child." However, her face is clouded by sadness. She hands the newborn baby back to the maid, named Chun, asking her to take care of him. Chun makes her this promise. Hearing her answer, the lady realizes that her time has come. She raises her hand to heaven, promising to be together with her brother, Fong. But soon, her hand falls lifelessly onto the bed. The servants turn to the master, interested in the fate of the second mistress's child. They ask what they should do with the young master, now that his mother has died. The answer is cold. The Luo family has always valued martial skill. If the child truly has ability, then he must fight for his status. At sunset, with the newborn in her arms, Chun runs away from the House of Lords. Behind her, she hears only accusations, that because of her dissolute life, she no longer deserves to remain in the house. However, her face does not show sadness. Through tears of joy, she begs the young gentleman not to cry anymore, assuring him that now they must depend only on each other. From that day on, Chun works hard to raise the young master. She mops floors in public spaces and sweeps the streets. 16 years later, the young master tries to train his abilities. Sitting in the lotus position, he attempts to circulate magic through his body. Unfortunately, he does not succeed, and the energy riots inside him, damaging his frail body. The young man complains about his weak physique, blocked meridians, and lack of cultivation talent. He blames God for this. Soon, however, he pulls himself together, admitting that sitting at home and doing nothing is pointless. He has many things ahead of him. He should not hope to remain the young master of his family. Then Luo leaves the house on business. Walking down a crowded street, he sees other men training. The training masters look at him with contemptuous eyes. Some whisper behind his back, calling him trash for daring to come and take a new technique. Others claim this brat can still stand only because he is the grandson of the patriarch, and that this fact alone saved him from disgraceful exile from the Luo family despite his mediocre talent. Still others scoff, saying they have heard the young gentleman has practiced the tide technique yet has not mastered even the first stage in 10 years. Everyone considers it useless, because even an ordinary martial artist could break through in just 3 days with the cultivation of the tide technique. The discussion is interrupted by an exclamation from one of the trainees, announcing the arrival of the chief instructor. At that moment, the figure of a tall and strong blond man rises above Luo. It is Luo-san, the chief training instructor of the Luo family's outer hall. The young gentleman has only enough time to glance at the instructor before he receives a powerful blow from Luo-san's right hand, concentrated with energy, and is thrown into the wall. Fog swirls around. The chief instructor stood there, the remnants of energy still flickering in his hands. He contemptuously declared that his son was a gifted genius, while Luo had become nothing but trash, unworthy of even being healthy. After saying this, Luo-san turned around and left the training ground. Behind him, the condemning voices of the students could be heard. Some said the chief instructor was acting unreasonably, since he himself was the cause of his own son's injuries due to cruel training. They added that no matter how useless Luo was, he was still the grandson of the patriarch. They believed Luo-san was simply taking advantage of the patriarch's seclusion to inflict more injuries on Luo. Others, however, objected. They said that Luo-san was now an expert at the 8th stage of the Haitian realm. Moreover, Luo's father had been punished by family law for colluding with a demon, and no one would dare to oppose such an expert for the sake of a useless brat. To them, the trash deserved what happened. That night, bad weather broke out over the small house. Loud peals of thunder illuminated the room through a single window. On the bed lay young Master Luo, unconscious. Beside him, Chun prayed desperately, begging him to wake up. She was eaten up by remorse, blaming herself for not being able to protect Luo. She felt she would never be able to face the eyes of his dead parents. As if hearing her prayers, green flashes of energy suddenly rushed toward the house, piercing through the window and entering Luo's unconscious body. Vortices of energy gathered at his forehead and penetrated into his consciousness, causing him intense pain. Chun jumped in fright, leaning over Master Luo's body in alarm. A few days later, the young man woke up, but something was wrong. He did not know where he was. His last memory was working overtime in the office. He soon realized that he had died and been reborn in someone else's body. At that moment, memories of the disappeared Luo began to pour into his mind. Yet the sound of a plate shattering interrupted his thoughts. Turning toward the noise, he saw a shocked Chun. She was overjoyed, for her young master had awakened and was safe. She immediately thanked God, tears streaming down her face, her body instinctively kneeling in a prayerful pose. Gently, she took the young master's hand. The young man was confused and asked if he had truly been reborn. Analyzing the memories, he realized that the former owner of this body had lived an even more pitiful life than his own. Luo had been beaten to death by a mere instructor, and had endured 16 years of humiliation. His thoughts were interrupted when Chun asked about his well-being. Looking into her face, he realized he now shared his fate with Luo. Just as he had been left an orphan, Luo too had lost his parents. Yet Luo had Chun by his side, who had taken care of him all these years. Moved by this, he quickly reassured Chun that he was fine, gently wiping the tears from her face with his hand. Overcome with emotion, Chun embraced the young master. She angrily accused Luo-san of cruelty, and urged Luo to rest. In her opinion, Luo-san would never have dared such a thing if the second master were still alive, even with 100 instructors at his side. Hearing this, the young man understood. In this world, a person's value was determined only by their fighting skills. He resolved to become stronger than anyone else, so that he could live in peace. Moreover, Luo-san's actions were unjustified, which gave him another reason: he must avenge the body's former owner. Miraculously, the chest fractured by the chief instructor quickly recovered, and the body itself became less fragile. In this cultivation world, there was no limit to a person's strength. Once one reached the 10th stage of the Haitian realm, he could interact with heaven and earth, thus stepping into the innate realm. But this stage was not easy to achieve. Therefore, Luo decided that it was necessary to first practice combat techniques. In this new world, techniques were divided into 5 different types: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The previous owner of the body had cultivated the tide technique, which was considered one of the best water attribute techniques. According to his memories, the young man realized that because of blocked meridians, practicing the tide technique had caused him unbearable pain. Still, Luo began his training. After some effort, he gradually felt the flow of energy within his body. Realizing the power, he finally broke through to the first stage of the tide technique. Clusters of water energy started to appear around his body. He understood that, due to his rebirth, the body itself had changed. He could definitely grow stronger now. In the Dahua kingdom, within Tangdu Prefecture, the enormous Luo family had existed for more than 1,000 years. The patriarch's grandson, the son of Luo Tanfang, was exiled to live in the servants' settlement. Inside his room, he practiced the tide technique, causing energy to spread throughout the chamber, filling every corner. Starting from the bottom, in just 3 months, he was able to reach the 5th stage of the tide technique, an incredibly fast pace. Luo had no doubt that the title of Trash Young Master, given to him by his entourage, would soon vanish. One day, after rising from his bed, Luo accidentally overheard 2 maids gossiping about him. They said he was only pretending to be sick after being beaten by Luo-san. But Luo was not upset by their words. Instead, he calmly analyzed his current strength and limitations. At only the 5th stage, he could not possibly defeat Luo-san, who was already at the 8th stage. Moreover, the person supporting Luo-san was even stronger. The reason behind the previous Luo's miserable life was tied to his father, Luo Tanfang. His father had once been the strongest of his generation, but because of collusion with a demon, he was punished under family law, thrown into the abyss, and his body was never found. The shadow of that transgression still weighed on Luo, who now could trust no one and was forced to rely solely on himself. Only students who reached the 5th stage could qualify to learn higher-level tide techniques. This fact made Luo think hard. He had to obtain these techniques, but without exposing his true strength. He had trained tirelessly for 3 months straight, yet still could not find a clear solution. In the clothing washing pavilion, women as usual were busy cleaning clothes. For this duty, Chun had also gone there. Suddenly, a wet rag was flung into her face. Shocked, Chun's vision blurred with soaked fabric. 2 servants from the Luo family's outer hall stood before her, forcing her to do extra work while mocking her. Helpless, Chun softly whispered that she had already finished her share of the work and should be free for the day. But they objected, claiming their rank was higher than hers, so they would decide when her day ended. One of the servants pointed at Lady Huang, the daughter of the 6th madam, who was standing nearby, saying that her clothes needed to be washed before Chun could leave. Chun politely replied that her young master was ill, and she needed to prepare medicine for him, asking them to show mercy. However, the second woman shouted angrily, asking how a sick cripple could be more important than the daughter of the 6th madam. Chun could no longer endure such insults. Her body trembled with anger, as she shouted directly at Lady Huang to stop speaking so viciously about the young master. Furious, Lady Huang activated the flaming fist technique, preparing to strike Chun. But before her attack landed, an angry voice thundered across the courtyard. "If you dare touch Aunt Chun, you must want to die!" The next moment, Lady Huang's body was struck by the Luo Yi tide technique, blasting her backward to the ground. Chun, though standing just a few centimeters away, was completely unharmed. Through the shimmering energy, she saw the figure of the young master. His right arm was completely engulfed in swirling energy. Luo concentrated the energy in his palm, his gaze sharp. Lady Huang, terrified, screamed hysterically that he would not go unpunished and that the 6th madam would avenge her. But Luo answered coldly, "That will not stop me." With that, he unleashed his final blow. Lady Huang's entire body convulsed in extreme pain, blood spilling from her mouth. After such a strike, she would never rise again. The outer hall servant instantly realized the truth. Luo was no longer the same miserable trash. Terrified, he begged for mercy, bowing at Luo's feet. But Luo refused to dirty his hands further. He coldly warned, "If you dare to tell anyone what happened, Lady Huang's fate will be yours." Then he walked past and approached the weeping Aunt Chun. Smiling gently, he told her, "No one will ever touch you again." Together they left, leaving the trembling servant behind. That servant, still in shock, muttered to himself. Lady Huang had been at the 4th stage of the flaming palm technique, yet she had not even been able to touch the young master. Clearly, the wind was now blowing in a different direction. Later, during their walk, Aunt Chun asked Luo not to reveal his strength. She said she was already old and did not care what happened to her, but she did not want anything to happen to him. Luo reassured her with confidence, promising to take care of everything. He also reflected that Lu Yang, the servant who had witnessed the fight, was not foolish enough to spread what he had seen. After all, the laws of the Dahua kingdom were strict, so strict that even a useless prince would not dare to challenge a servant's word. A month later, Luo Yi was once again training the tide technique. He understood that in order to reach the 6th level, he needed a technique of the same rank. The only problem left was figuring out how to obtain it. Outside, he encountered Luo Yang, who greeted the young gentleman with a respectful bow. Luo Yi, seeing him, invited him inside the house. After they entered the room, Luo Yi asked the servant what he needed and why he had come. Luo Yang explained that he had already disposed of Huang's body, dumping it at the foot of the mountains. This did not surprise Luo Yi, so he repeated his question again, demanding to know the true reason for Luo Yang's visit. At that, Luo Yang fell to his knees, begging forgiveness for his past disrespect and swearing that from now on, he would follow Luo Yi's orders. The cunning servant had realized that while the Grand Patriarch was still in seclusion, Luo Tanba's temporary faction was in power. That faction was not on good terms with Luo Tanfang. Therefore, Luo Yi would surely try to hide his strength until the Patriarch emerged from seclusion, which would take 6 more months. During this time, Luo Yi would need trustworthy assistance, and Luo Yang saw it as his chance to rise to a higher position. After considering what Luo Yang said, Luo Yi ordered him to obtain the scriptures for the 6th and 7th levels of the Tide technique, promising him rewards in return. Believing this was a test of loyalty, Luo Yang swore he would acquire the scriptures within 3 days. Without delay, Luo Yang went to the inner hall, seeking out the keeper of techniques. The guardian frowned and asked why he needed the 6th and 7th level scriptures of the Tide technique, since Luo Yang himself cultivated a completely different path. Thinking quickly, Luo Yang made up a story. His nephew had reached the 5th stage of cultivation but was now stuck, unable to progress further. In order for him to continue developing, he needed these advanced scriptures. To make his case stronger, Luo Yang approached his acquaintance, Brother Hong. But Hong sternly warned him. Transferring scriptures from the inner hall to the outer hall is punishable by death. Luo Yang, however, insisted. He swore that he would personally supervise his nephew, who, he claimed, didn't even live in Tangdu. The boy would simply learn the techniques and then leave, ensuring no one ever found out. Luo Yang took full responsibility and promised never to mention Brother Hong's involvement. After a pause, Hong sighed. He gathered energy in his palm, forming a small glowing orb. This, he explained, is a condensing Kai pill. It will last for 6 months. Luo Yang gratefully accepted the pill, vowing to repay Brother Hong for this great favor. An hour later, Hong returned carrying 2 scrolls. He handed them over, sternly warning Luo Yang not to lose or damage the scriptures. Luo Yang bowed deeply, expressing his thanks and promising to repay this kindness in full. Yet, in his heart, he was already thinking that such a swift success in completing the task would surely earn him even greater favor from the young master. Luo Yang presented the scrolls he had obtained to young Master Luo, who was extremely pleased. Moreover, Luo Yang once again swore allegiance to the young master for the rest of his life, promising to carry out any order without hesitation or question. In gratitude for his service, Luo Yi allowed Luo Yang to stop kneeling whenever he entered the young master's room. Luo Yi then asked whether Luo Yang had truly suspended Aunt Chun from her work. Luo Yang immediately replied that he could never force the young master's most precious aunt to continue laboring. He also complained that this was the only thing he was capable of doing for Chunner, given his limited ability. Luo Yi praised him for his efforts but warned him not to overdo it again. He also forbade him from visiting the house anymore, saying that from now on, the young master himself would seek him out when necessary. Luo Yang instantly understood that frequent visits might attract unnecessary attention. He admitted it had been careless of him, agreed with the order, and left. 3 months later, while gazing at the snowy landscape outside the window, Luo Yi reflected that mastering the 6th and 7th stages of the Tide technique was truly difficult. It had taken him 3 full months to reach only the middle of the 7th stage. Now, just 6 months remained before this year's talent tournament. At that tournament, he would need to prove his skills and qualify to enter the Palace of Martial Skills. Luo Yi knew that until he completed the 7th stage, he would be in constant danger, but once he surpassed the Haoshuan realm and stepped into the innate realm, the time for his revenge would come. In his heart, Luo Yi silently addressed the body's former owner, promising to avenge every insult and never forgive anyone who had mocked him. His thoughts were interrupted by Chunna's gentle voice. She asked if the young master remembered what day it was. Luo Yi softly replied that today was the anniversary of his mother's death. Aunt Chunna confirmed his words and urged him to go to the graves of his mother and the second master to offer prayers. Together, they went to the outskirts of the village to pay respects. Kneeling before the makeshift altar, Luo Yi wondered if he could truly be considered their son. Even if he was not, he felt no objection to honoring them. Beside him, Chunna wept bitterly, asking how her beloved masters were faring in the afterlife. She cried that Bai Chun had also wished to join them in service, but since the young master was still too young, she could not abandon him to follow them. Through her tears she lamented that she had failed to care for him properly, and had let her masters down. Luo Yi gently helped her rise from her knees and held an umbrella over her trembling figure, shielding her from the falling snow. It was New Year's Eve, the day of the Luo family's annual festival. The main street was decorated with lanterns and bright confetti, overflowing with festive atmosphere. The entire Luo family paraded proudly, passing through the crowd of cheering townsfolk. And indeed, the Luo clan had become the strongest family in all of Tangdu for good reason. Each of the family's lords appeared noble and dignified, their jeweled robes and elegant music only adding to the honor of their presence. Standing quietly in the crowd, Luo Yi watched, astonished at how lively the festival truly was. But suddenly, the noise of the crowd was interrupted. Turning his head, Luo Yi saw the second son of Luo Tamba riding on horseback, forcing his way through the street. Behind him, his henchmen also rode horses, scattering the people to either side. The one remembered that it was they who had bullied him in his previous life. He was seized with a wild desire for revenge. So Lu, unnoticed by everyone, directed his energy through his right leg into the ground, thereby forming an ice crust that quickly spread along the road and firmly embedded in the horse's hooves, preventing it from moving. All the horses threw off their riders in surprise. Luo Hao tried to get up after the fall, but he failed, and his legs simply slid in different directions on the ice, forcing Luo Hao to fall again. He was angry, and his servants were trying to lift him up. Lu remarked with cheerful indifference that this was just the beginning and that the time of full reckoning was waiting for him. Then Lu went to the obelisk of the ancestors of the Luo family. There he saw the head of the family, and the elders. It was the patriarch of the family, and his grandfather. His prowess and strength could be seen even with the naked eye. He deserved to be called the head of the family. With his aura alone he silenced everyone. This was possible only for the owners of great power. His figure towered majestically above the crowd, and the golden robe only emphasized his status. Next to the patriarch of the family was Luo Chunba. Even after the death of his brother Luo Chifeng, he encouraged people to drink and celebrate because they were always fighting for power among themselves. Lu reflected that if his strength was revealed, then Luo Chunba would be the first to worry. The Luo family was fighting for power with each other, but he was not interested in it. He planned to reach the innate realm, and rid himself of the drama of the Luo family. The head of the family spoke about the fact that 29 generations had passed since their ancestor Luo Qingfang came to Chandu. Today, they paid tribute to their common ancestor on the last day of the old year. He wished that the glory of the family would continue to be passed down from generation to generation. In honor of this, he ordered a sacrifice. The sacrifice was a demonic beast, Liger. It was a huge creature resembling a lion, its claws so sharp that they could cut a golden ingot like tofu. It was carried in a cage by 4 servants. It turned out that this was a fully grown adult beast, making it a first-class sacrifice for the festival. When the cage was lowered, the head of the family ordered the door to be opened. It happened in the blink of an eye, and the beast was outside on the street, immediately trying to attack the patriarch. Liger did not have time to do anything, as the patriarch's energy began to swirl around him. In a single leap, Lu only had time to be shocked. This simply could not exist in reality. Was this power, the power beyond the innate realm? Meanwhile, Luo Chunba's sword, surrounded by his energy, cut through the air and dealt the final blow to the liger, cutting off its head. Lu was amazed. Complete union with the sword showed that Luo Chunba was at the peak of the Haoshan realm, and only a single step away from the innate realm. Meanwhile, the patriarch's energy enveloped the beast's head with a fiery sphere and lifted it from the ground. He ordered the audience to kneel and bow to the ancestors. After that, he, along with the beast's head, rushed into the heavens. At that moment, Lu realized that this was the very power he needed to pursue. He must surpass the head of the family, and rise to the top of the world. The head of the Luo family then announced the start of the annual tournament. Those who had reached level 5 and above could enter the inner hall. The level check was as follows. There was a treasure of the Luo family, the memory stone, with which the level of strength was measured. With a single swipe of the palm, it could determine the level of strength based on the destruction left by the palm mark. The inspector called Luo Feng, who struck one blow with the destructive golden palm branch technique on the memory stone. The inspector declared that this blow caused damage equal to 5 and 4 inches in depth, which meant that the technique was at the 5th level, initial stage. Luo Feng happily left, and another participant took his place. All this time, Luo Yi was standing in line, waiting for his turn. Suddenly, a hand was placed on his shoulder, and in a sarcastic voice someone asked if he was the 23rd brother. Luo Yi turned around and saw the already familiar Luo Hao. The latter noticed that Luo Yi had grown up, as the family had improved the servants' food. He wanted to laugh with his lackeys, but they didn't let him do it. They were prevented by none other than Luo Biyun, Luo Yi's cousin. She was the daughter of Luo Tanchuang, Luo Yi's second uncle, and one of the few members of the Luo family who treated him well. However, after coping with surprise, Luo Hao continued to mock him, saying that even a year after their last meeting, Luo Yi continued to hide behind women's skirts. Luo Biyun tried to silence him, but she was interrupted by Luo Yi, who asked the dear 17th brother how he was doing on such a fine day. He also wished him to be more careful on the road. Somewhere behind, there were whispers. How dare he talk to the 17th brother like that? What's wrong with this little brat? And also, wasn't he beaten half to death with one blow by Luo San? Had he lost his last sanity? Luo Hao, in turn, took the hint and was mad as hell. He hissed through his teeth, clenched in anger. What did you say? But Luo Yi simply replied that he had heard about what happened yesterday, and was worried about it. Energy began to gather around Luo Hao as he declared that he was obliged to teach Luo Yi both manners and the correct way to address his elders. But he was prevented. Luo Biyun blocked his way, urging him to calm down. On her order, and because the annual tournament was taking place today, Luo Hao did not want to incur the wrath of the elders. He agreed but warned that he was releasing Luo Yi only for today. From tomorrow, he would have to beware of the 17th brother. Luo Yi thanked Luo Biyun from the bottom of his heart, to which she replied that, as an older sister, she should protect him. She also asked Luo Yi to beware of the vicious Luo Hao in the future. Luo Yi only noted that there were family rules that even Luo Hao would not dare break. Luo Biyun merely marveled at how confident Luo Yi had become. Meanwhile, Luo Chunba announced that the evaluation of the main branch bloodline had been completed. But he was interrupted by Luo Yi, who pointed out that he had not been checked yet. The crowd around him laughed, throwing insults at him, but all of this was silenced by the decision of the patriarch, who loudly announced that Luo Yi could take the test. Luo Chunba was indignant but gave up and invited Luo Yi to the memory stone. Luo Biyun tried to stop him, asking if he was sure, but he only assured her that everything would be fine. Luo Yi walked up to the stone and concentrated all the energy in his right hand, after which he struck. The inspector announced that the depth was 5 and 3 inches. Title Arts. The young master is at the 5th level, middle stage. People started talking. At 16, to reach the 5th level of the stage was brilliant, which meant he was not a loser at all. Luo Yi was also praised by the examiner. Luo Hao, however, was thinking that all this glory should belong to him. Having dropped the title of garbage, Luo Yi still hid cards up his sleeve. That was not all. Luo Chunba was at a loss as to how this loser could become so powerful at his age. The question remained unanswered, and he simply announced aloud that the assessment of the main family branch had been completed, and now the children of the side families would be evaluated. Meanwhile, Luo Biyun hurried to Luo Yi. She was happy and kept asking how he had been able to reach such a level, and why he had not told his little sister. She was in awe, while Luo Yi thought about the need to find a plausible excuse. Luo Yi told Luo Biyun that when he was beaten by Luo San 6 months ago, an old man appeared to him on the verge of life and death and forced him to eat some strange pill. After that, his injuries not only fully recovered but he also stopped having problems with improvement. Luo Biyun was surprised. Was there really such a pill that could help someone reach the 5th level out of nothing in 6 months? Meanwhile, Luo Yi thought that he had incredible support, because of which no one could do anything wrong to him. He needed to reach the innate realm, and then all those who looked down on him would pay. The ringing of a bell interrupted his thoughts. Luo Tamba announced that at the end of this year, in addition to 4 members from the main family, 12 members from the side family who had reached the 5th level would also be able to enter the inner palace. Those who had not reached the 5th level would participate in an elimination match. After these words, a girl in white flew into the arena. Someone watching the battle noted that it was more exciting than anything seen on TV. The girl in the arena effortlessly and single-handedly scattered everyone who tried to compete with her, and became the only winner. This aroused Luo Yi's respect, and he decided that such a force should be reckoned with. Luo Chunba then announced the end of this year's tournament, and asked everyone who had received the right to enter the inner hall to gather in the elite combat hall of the martial palace. Luo Yi went to the inner palace, where he saw Luo Sen at the entrance. Luo Yi thought with annoyance that enemies often crossed paths. Luo Sen's face was distorted by a grimace of hatred. He could not understand why Luo Yi's life had been saved by some miracle pill, but no one had saved his son. Luo Sen's son's talent had been better than Luo Yi's. The guards also did not let Luo Yi inside, arguing that the rabble had no place in the inner hall. Luo Yi asked Luo Sen why he was still considered a rebel even though he had qualified. Luo Sen turned away, ignoring the question. Luo Yi realized that nothing could be achieved by talking, so he began to concentrate his energy in his body, justifying to himself that he did not want to do this. At the same moment, the swords in the guards' hands flew in all directions, as did the warriors themselves. Luo Sen, enraged, asked how he dared to raise his hand against the Iron Guard. After that, he ordered his soldiers to attack Luo Yi. The fighters obeyed the order. One of the soldiers explained that those who attacked the Iron Guard, regardless of their status, should be executed. The fact that Luo Yi was a direct descendant of the family did not give him the right to act at his discretion. Luo Yi interrupted the speaker, saying that they were the violators of the rules. He had earned the qualification to enter the inner martial palace by reaching the strength of the middle of the 5th stage, and the whole Luo family knew about it. However, the guards dared to go against the family rules and try to stop him. The soldiers of the Iron Guard were given powers by the Luo family. But is that why they should become Luo Sen's dogs? It is precisely such warriors who should be ashamed of abusing their powers. The loud tirade was interrupted by Luo Sen, who came down toward Luo Yi. His entire body was enveloped in fiery energy. He asked Luo Yi what he was talking about. Luo Yi, after assessing the opponent's strength, realized that he was using the Golden Core technique, at the beginning of the 8th level. Trying to provoke Luo Sen, he called the latter a dog and asked him about his intentions to fight. The brawl was interrupted by Luo Chunba. Both opponents immediately felt the force surrounding his body. Luo Yi thought maliciously that Luo Chunba only wanted to play the good person. After watching the show for so long, he just wanted to check on him. Luo Chunba asked what was going on. Luo Yi explained that the old dog Luo Sen had not allowed him into the palace, even though today he had been given permission to enter the elite combat hall, and he asked Luo Chunba to assess the situation. Luo Chunba turned to Luo Sen to find out if Luo Yi was telling the truth. The instructor began to deny it, saying that Luo Yi had wanted to enter the hall without saying a word. Luo Chunba continued to explain instead of Luo Sen, saying that in this regard the guards had decided to stop him, but Luo Yi had seriously wounded them, so Luo Sen had intervened. Luo Yi chuckled, thinking that they were a wonderful pair of actors who wanted to cancel his qualification. He immediately retorted that the first thing he had said when he came to the inner palace was that he had called the third elder. He also accused Luo Sen of not respecting Uncle Luo Chunba, which is why he was lying. Despite his age, Luo Chunba could see the lies in Luo Sen's eyes. Luo Chunba only irritably noted to himself that this child Luo Yi had become too smart, and now knew how to shift blame to another person with cunning words. Right now, he was even using his name to silence Luo Chunba. Luo Chunba concluded that Luo Yi should not be underestimated. Now aloud, he said that the situation had happened only because of a small misunderstanding, so he asked Luo Sen to listen to people from now on. Then he asked Luo Yi to follow him. Along the snow-covered path, there was a column of people, masters who had received qualifications, and Luo Sen's improvised caravan was closing it. Luo Chunba told the masters that as soon as they entered the inner martial palace, they would be able to choose and study a martial technique from the Holy Hall. The elite battle hall was the core of the Luo family, as it had been storing scriptures for thousands of years. Just choosing a scripture from there was already a great success. Approaching the doors of the inner martial palace, Luo Chunba introduced himself and explained that he had brought the disciples to choose scriptures. When the doors opened, the disciples saw one of the elders. Luo Chunba bowed politely. When the elder asked about the patriarch's health, Luo Chunba assured him that everything was fine with the head of the family, and thanked the elder for his care. The elder fixed his gaze. This look made Luo Chunba feel uneasy, as it seemed to him that the elder could see through him. The elder just chuckled and muttered that the seedlings were not so bad this time. After that, he turned around and went into the hall, telling Luo Chunba that they could enter, and for him to explain the rules. Luo Chunba immediately began to execute the order, leading the recruits through the combat hall. Luo Chunba said that they were on the first floor of the Hall of Holy Warriors, which was divided into 6 main categories depending on the nature of the technique. Everyone could recognize an attribute based on its color. But rivals could only be on the ground floor, and no scripture should leave the walls of the hall. Novice masters could rewrite the necessary information. Everyone had only 2 hours to do this. In addition, in the future, to access the Hall of Holy Warriors, one would need to confirm their qualifications. In this regard, the first technique chosen by a master was extremely important. He once again warned that the entrance to the second floor was prohibited. Anyone who was near the stairs to the second floor felt a strong energy aura and realized that the elder was guarding this particular entrance. Luo Yi ignored this force and walked over to the bookcase with the writings. He understood that his tide technique had already reached the peak of the 7th level, and he needed the scripture of the 8th level to develop further. However, after starting to read the scriptures, Luo Yi realized that there were only scriptures up to the 7th level on the first floor. Perhaps the 8th level scriptures were on the second floor. He understood that, with his current strength, if he tried to climb to the second floor, he would die. After a little more thought, he decided to cultivate another technique. As he passed the shelves, he read the titles: The Cloudy Arrangement of Palm Trees, The Body of Flowing Light, The Holy Scripture of the Azure Sword, Ethereal Flowing Rain. The last title interested him most. Luo Yi reflected that if he could comprehend the ethereal flowing rain technique to the 3rd level, he would be able to understand a little bit of the true meaning of the tide technique. This technique was one of the most powerful in the world. It was strange that such a powerful technique was located on the first floor. After reading the scroll, Luo Yi realized that this was only the first level of the technique, and decided to focus on other, more useful techniques. 2 hours later, Luo Chunba informed the novice masters that the training session had ended. He said that in 2 months, the masters would go to Cloudflow Island for further training. Luo Chunba advised the newcomers to hone the skills they had acquired in the Hall of Holy Warriors during these 2 months so as not to disgrace the honor of the Luo family during the battle on Cloudflow Island. Luo Yi was particularly interested in the mention of a battle on the island. He thought they would be fighting for something. After leaving the inner palace, Luo Yi was greeted with bows by the servants lined up in a row. Aunt Chun and Luo Yang were already on their way to meet him. Aunt Chun explained that they were in the Scorching Sky Pavilion, which had been opened to Luo Yi. Luo Binyan, the Abinian's sister, also came to greet and congratulate him. Binyan noticed that this pavilion was usually given to the 2nd generation of the family. The 3rd generation hardly ever got to visit. Luo Yi offered Binyan to share the pavilion, but she refused to accept such a generous gift. Luo Yi understood that his recent achievements had calmed those who were higher up in the family. Meanwhile, Binyan asked about the technique that Luo Yi had chosen. He replied that he was interested in the sword technique. Binyan immediately asked for permission to give him the first sword to improve his technique. Luo Yi thanked his sister. Sister Binyan warned Luo Yi that all the servants in this pavilion were appointed from above and could be spies, so she asked him to be careful. Luo Yi thanked his sister for the warning. At night, Luo Yi went to the grave of Chun so that he would not be seen by extra eyes in the residence. He was sure that no one would go there. However, as he approached, he saw a lonely figure sitting near his father's grave. Approaching her, he was surprised to realize that it was the patriarch. He had been waiting for Luo Yi. The head of the family asked if Luo Yi hated him because, as a grandfather, he had not fulfilled his role. Luo Yi only shrugged his shoulders, noting that he did not remember him as a grandfather, and therefore did not feel hatred. However, he understood that the status of patriarch imposed certain obligations on a person, which he could understand. The patriarch was satisfied with these words. He reminded Luo Yi that, no matter what, he still remained a member of the Luo family, and handed him a scroll with scriptures. Taking it in his hands, Luo Yi realized that it was a tide technique from the 8th to the 10th level. The patriarch explained that although he did not know the technique by which Luo Yi had true power, because even he, the head of the family, could not see it at first glance, he should always be on his guard while improving it. Luo Yi only admired the knowledge and observation of the patriarch, though nothing else was unexpected from the head of a millennial family. When the patriarch left, Luo Yi immediately started training. His mind was swarming with thoughts. In this family, the rules were so strict that even the patriarch needed to find such an isolated place to give the scripture to his grandson. He intended to destroy all evidence of the patriarch's presence in this place so as not to bring any problems upon him. After 2 months, Luo Yi trained in the Azure Sword technique. All efforts were in vain. After the end of the first level, the light of the 7 swords should have spread to release sharp light rays, but it did not work out for him. Luo Yi cultivated this technique to the 7th level but could not master it. He didn't understand what he was doing wrong. Standing in the rain, he thought about techniques. The thought came to his mind, what if the ethereal flowing rain stream technique could help him? The ethereal flowing rain stream was composed of small drops of energy, flowing down from above and forming a large lake of energy. Each drop filled the lake, making it even bigger and stronger. Luo Yi realized that he was on the right track and that everything would work out for him. The rain stream and the sword stream Kai combined to form the strongest concentration of energy in the sword. Luo Yi struck them against the training stone, turning it into ice. Novice masters training in another part of the forest heard a loud explosion. They turned toward the noise, trying to find the source. Meanwhile, Luo Yi realized that this was the true power of the Azure Sword technique. Surely, fate favored him, which was why the rain had started, guiding him in the right direction. Luo Yi's next goal was to achieve the true essence of the tide technique, which no one had managed to learn so far. He realized how terrifying the Azure Sword technique was, as he had used up all his stamina while using it. He needed to be ready for the next attempt. However, when he turned around, he heard other masters trying to locate the source of the noise. He was surprised that he had attracted so much extra attention. It was not the time for exposure, so he hurriedly hid in a thicket of the forest. The novice masters who had arrived at the noise saw only the stones showering down and turning into crystal ice. This could only be done by someone who had the water attribute at a level not lower than the 7th stage. The coach corrected them, saying that such a feat could only be done by someone in the innate realm. Everyone was shocked. There was another expert who was at the same level as the patriarch. The Abinian, who had come among the arrivals, offered to inform the family that there was an expert with such power in the back of the mountains. Luo Yi's meal was interrupted by Luo Binian. She asked Luo Yi where he had been all day. He replied that he had been cultivating in the lowlands of the mountain. The Abinian was surprised and asked if he had been at the back of the mountain. Luo Yi explained that he had not been there and asked what had happened. The sister explained that there was an unknown expert in that territory who was in the innate realm. Luo Yi was surprised. An expert in the innate realm? He understood that Binyan was talking about him, but he was not in the innate realm. He asked why they thought that the person who had infiltrated the family's territory was an expert in the innate realm. Binyan explained that the 13th elder, who was with her, had told her that the innate energy orb revolved around the surrounding area. Luo Yi realized that Binyan was talking about the flow that would help him understand the truth of the technique. One cannot learn this feeling verbally. One must experience it personally. It would help Luo Yi reach the innate realm after he reached the peak of the Hongshan realm. He asked how the family was going to deal with the stranger. Binyan explained that the expert had not done anything yet and only advised that people avoid going to that part of the mountain too often. She also reminded him that on March 5th, Luo Yi and Luo Binyan would be going to Cloud Flow Island, so it was necessary to improve their techniques as much as possible until then. Luo Yi promised to work hard. On the 5th of March, Binyan and Luo Yi arrived at the crossroads of the Ras Sand at the port, from where the ships departed for Cloud Flow Island. A large number of people were already standing on the square. Luo Yi was confused. Why were there so many people? Binyan replied that in the Luo family, those who had not reached the 8th level and had not yet turned 30 were sent to train on Cloud Flow Island every year. Over time, this had become a tradition. The number of people was growing. Luo Yi inquired about why they were still standing there. Binyan explained that, as a beginner, he had already been assigned to a small group, which she would lead him to. Luo Yi and Binyan went to their group. Upon arrival, they were met by the captain of the group, the 15th brother, named Lu. He introduced himself, and asked to be called Brother Lu. He also wanted to introduce Luo Yi to everyone present, but he was interrupted by a bald guy. The bald guy said that there was no need to introduce him. He was Luo Sing Aflo. If Luo Yi respected him, he could call him Brother Sing. If not, he could call him Bald. Luo Yi laughed and remarked that this was exactly Brother Sing's point. He was too straightforward. He was also the vice captain of the group. Brother Sing asked if his straightforwardness was inconvenient. Luo Yi replied that he liked Brother Sing's straightforwardness, had no objections, and asked him to call him Brother Lu next time. Brother Sing laughed and admitted that he liked Luo Yi, so if Luo Yi had any questions, he could safely contact him. Luo Yi then wished everyone to get along this year. This year, the third uncle would lead the squad. The only one close to his uncle was his son, Luo Yan. The uncle also gave orders to the first 5 groups to board the first ship on their own. The seating then began. Luo Yi was in the third group, so he also followed onto the first ship. After all the groups boarded, the uncle gave the order to set sail for Cloud Flow Island. Luo Yi was watching the sea surface when Sister Binyan called out to him. She noticed that Luo Ha was also on their ship. Because of his bad temper, he could not come to terms with what Luo Yi had told him at home. He had not had the courage to take revenge on Luo Yi before, but now that they had recovered to Cloud Flow Island, he could cause harm. She understood that the island was very dangerous, where anyone could be maimed or even killed. She strongly recommended that Luo Yi always stay close to someone nearby, so that Luo Hao could not bring him trouble. Luo Yi thanked his sister and, to distract her, asked how big the ocean was. Cheerful, Binyan replied that the territorial waters extended 500 kilometers from the city, and beyond that, there was external territorial water. Cloud Flow Island was located near the borders of the territorial waters. Few people knew what the borders of the external waters looked like. Legend had it that demonic beasts roamed freely in those areas, as people were forbidden to enter. Those territories had been restless lately. During the Luo family's release of livestock, they had encountered a 9th-level lizard beast. Binyan then expressed hopes that the trip would go smoothly. At this time, Luo Yi was thinking that when he reached the innate realm, he would travel to meet martial artists and see various magical beasts. Luo Yi was training in the cabin of the ship when he was thrown against the wall in the chaos. He heard shouts from the deck. A demonic beast had invaded the ship. Surprised, Luo Yi ran out onto the deck. He saw a huge snake, comparable in size to the ship. Pointwise, it attacked the decks, destroying them and breaking the wooden beams. Another blow fell on the part of the ship where Luo Yi and others were. People on the deck tried to escape, including Luo Binyan. Due to the destruction, Binyan's leg got stuck, and she was unable to leave the ship. The snake noticed that the victim was in no hurry to escape. Preparing for a strike, it rushed toward the girl. Meanwhile, Luo Yi ran to save his sister. He struck the beam with his hand, shattering the wood, and freed Binyan's leg just in time, because, a split second later, the monster's head would have struck her. Realizing the mistake, the snake turned to attack Luo Yi and Binyan, but it was stopped by fiery energy. A fiery stream hit the snake right in the snout, throwing the beast back. Luo Yi noticed that third uncle Luo Tanzing, engulfed in energy, was moving toward the beast at incredible speed. Everyone was sure that the third uncle, with his 9th level fire technique, would defeat the demonic spawn with a precise blow. Luo Tanzing struck beneath the snake's head and ordered all combat-ready masters to block the creature. The masters simultaneously applied their techniques to the monster, forcing it to retreat. All the masters rejoiced because the third uncle had defeated the monster. Luo Yi realized at this moment that if there were so many strong masters in the Luo family, then how many masters were there in the entire world? He definitely needed to reach the pinnacle of martial arts to conquer it. Meanwhile, the ships had already reached Cloud Flow Island. The island was a mist-shrouded mountain, and it was here that they would have to live for a year. After mooring, the masters descended to the ground. The island was overgrown with trees. The seniors saw off the newcomers, showing them the direction of the Luo family camp. The novice masters were warned that if they were wounded, they would need to return to the camp in order not to die. The camp was a small village consisting of 5 huge tents, guarded by soldiers. Luo Yi asked his sister who the guards belonged to. Binyan explained that they were soldiers of the Dahua kingdom, since Luo Yi's family was not the only one training on the island. Binyan was immediately placed on a couch and sent to a doctor. She was too worried about Luo Yi, so she asked him to look after her. He agreed. Meanwhile, the third uncle gave each of them a tiger dragon pill and then suggested that they look around and assess the surrounding situation. Luo Yi knew that the tiger dragon pill was necessary so that, in half a year, a martial artist from the Daiwa kingdom could reach the next stage. He decided for himself that, as soon as he reached the 9th stage, he would immediately take a pill to easily advance to the 10th stage. Luo Yi explained to his group that during the first 3 months, they would not take missions but instead train techniques while fighting demonic beasts of the 5th and 6th levels. The group moved toward the forest, but suddenly Luo Yi stopped the team. He warned that there were demonic beasts of the 5th level ahead, and that there were many of them. It was necessary not to anger or attract the attention of all the animals. Then he sensed one of the demonic beasts approaching. The master saw a monster that looked like a wild boar. Luo Yi informed the group that a bristly boar, a 5th level demonic beast, was in front of them. The beast was not fast, but its defense was formidable. Its weak point was its eyes. Luo Yi asked if the masters were confident in their strength. He understood that he could not retreat and avoid participating in the first battle with the demonic beast. However, no one should know that his strength was far higher than anyone imagined. He would only have to use techniques of the 5th intermediate level. Luo Yi stepped out of his hiding place and was immediately noticed by the boar. From the fury of the beast, smoke poured out of its nostrils. Pointing its sharp tusks toward Luo Yi, it charged, gaining speed. Luo Yi concentrated the energy around his body and sword, preparing to attack the boar. First, he jumped onto the monster's back, moving behind it. The beast bucked sharply and struck Luo Yi with a violent U-turn. Energy began to swirl around the beast. Luo Yi realized that the situation was dangerous. Attacked by the demonic boar, Luo Yi was retreating backward. He saw the demonic energy of the beast directed toward him with aggressive intent to strike. Luo Yi fell from the boar's jump but managed to transfer his energy into his legs, keeping the boar's tusks away from his body. He pushed the beast aside and jumped back himself, increasing the distance between them. Luo Yi realized that the tidal technique had influenced the fight. He reflected that the boar's skull was too dense. He would not have been able to strike it directly by transferring energy into the sword. Luo Yi delivered the final blow to the animal, defeating it. He then came out of hiding, grabbing Lu Binyan's arm to make her run. He explained that the boar had growled before dying, which could attract the attention of other demonic beasts. Luo Yi warned that it was necessary to silence the animal to prevent it from making any noise. Luo Yi offered to demonstrate how to fight with animals in order to minimize strength usage and avoid losses. He noticed a demonic fox near a pond. Unbeknownst to the beast, Luo Yi crept up behind it and struck its neck with his sword. The fox only managed to concentrate its fiery energy and release it from its mouth, but it was too late. The novice masters, watching from their shelter, rejoiced at Luo Yi's victory. Luo Yi was shocked that he needed only 8 breaths to defeat the animal. He thought that even if someone were at the 8th level, they would not be able to defeat him. Luo Yi asked if Lu Binyan understood how to fight demonic beasts. She replied that animals rely on their instincts, and if one uses the environment to manipulate these instincts, it is not difficult to defeat them. Luo Yi confirmed her understanding but clarified that experience is necessary to succeed. Talent alone is not enough. He explained that the technique he demonstrated was just one of many methods that could be used to hunt. These few months were necessary to hone the skills of the young masters. After his words, the novice masters began training their hunting skills with diligence. 3 days later, while at the Luo family camp, Luo Yi announced Binyan's full recovery. From now on, they could take missions as a fully fledged third team. Inspired, Lu Binyan asked what kind of missions they would undertake, and what level of beasts they would hunt. Luo Yi replied that their next prey would be a demonic beast at the peak of the 7th level, a night panther. As soon as the group caught it, they were to return to the camp with its head. The beast had great speed. Binyan objected, asking if the panther's speed would be an obstacle to capture. Luo Yi assured her that the beast was still a beast, and with a proper plan, it would be easy to catch. Inspired by his response, the team set out on the hunt. No one noticed that 2 people were watching them from a tree. It was Luo Tanzing and Luo Tanchen. Luo Tanzing asked Luo Tanchen not to harm the others while executing Luo's orders to eliminate Lu. The second one reassured Luo Tanzing that everything would be fine. Being in a cave and hiding from the torrential rain, Luo Yi reasoned that although the island was called Cloud Flow, such heavy rain was unusual. A few days later, they reached the shelter of the night panther. Luo Yi even managed to devise a plan, which he explained to the group. He said that the night panther was a 7th-rank beast, or below. To defeat it, they would need to use water attributes to limit its mobility. Junior sisters Young Dixing and Zio Kiwi would have to slow down the beast, as they had cultivated the tidal technique. After slowing it down, Ruer and Isner would use the root technique to capture the beast. Zio Yan would employ the earth-bending technique to stun the animal. Meanwhile, Luo Yi himself and Luo Xian would take up positions to deliver the final blow. Everyone agreed with Luo Yi's plan and was ready to execute it. Meanwhile, Luo Yi noticed that for 8 days, their group had been followed by unknown people. He realized that they were specifically chasing him. He wondered whether it was Luo Tanzing or Luo Tanchen. If Luo Yi could fully comprehend the fluid body technique, he would be able to defeat anyone. He planned to spend this night training, and if he succeeded, he would have a chance to survive. The Yui left the cave and headed into the depths of the forest. Luo Yi trained throughout the night. He understood that in their world, there were those who lived thanks to water and those who could control water. Lightning steps were steps formed with the help of light, allowing movement in space at lightning speed. However, they absorbed too much Kai energy, so they could only be used as a last resort. The next morning, the whole group gathered near the nest of the night panther. Luo Yi signaled that he would go first to explore the habitat of the beast, and ordered the rest to wait in place. Meanwhile, Luo Tanchen and his men were watching them. He needed to eliminate Luo Yi, but they never got the chance. Luo Yi was constantly with the group, so attacking him directly was impossible. They would have to proceed with Plan B. Tanchen ordered his son, Dinger, to stay in place and, even if delayed, not to take any action. Tanchen decided he could protect the group, so he decided to use the spiritual invigorating pill on the demonic beast to gain full control over its mind. Luo Yi felt a surge of pride at having forced Tanchen to resort to such a pill and die with honor. Tanchen launched the pill into the purple harpy's body using a secret technique, enslaving the harpy's mind. However, this control was temporary, and Tanchen remembered it. He was confident he would have enough time to kill Luo Yi. He planned to use the harpy as a means of transportation. Meanwhile, Luo Yi was inside the night panther's cave. The team grew anxious because he had been inside for too long. After some time, he emerged and explained that the cave was filled with too many branches and vines, which prevented easy passage. The beast was fast asleep, which was the ideal situation for them to attack. He said the chances of success were high, and they needed to move immediately. Tianqin's men, watching the group, were excited that the team wanted to enter, but Dinger ordered them to wait. He wanted to take revenge on Luo Yi for his previous downfall. One of his men saw a demonic beast in the sky. Dinger ordered them to remain still because they were unsure if the beast would fall on them. As the beast approached, Dinger noticed his father on the harpy. He was stunned and could not understand how his father had managed to subdue the demonic beast. Tianqin ignored the question and asked where the group had gone. Dinger replied that they were in a cave. Tianqin demanded that they prepare a trap at the cave entrance, explaining that they needed to separate Luo Yi from the others. Meanwhile, Luo Yi's third team was executing his plan. Luo Yi began distracting the Night Panther. As the beast woke and rushed at him, this became the signal for the rest of the team. The participants who had cultivated the tide technique slowed the monster and surrounded it with walls of ice. At the same time, the slowed beast was immobilized by roots of plants that had sprouted through the ice. The two masters rushed to the beast to deliver the finishing blow, but something went wrong. The beast escaped from the grip of the root technique, and managed to avoid the strike of one of the sword masters. Luo Yi realized that this was the perfect moment to deliver a winning strike. Luo Yi came close to the Night Panther, raising his sword for the final blow, but he suddenly heard the sound of a winged beast. If a second beast appeared in the cave, the speed and reaction of the Night Panther would increase. The panther was able to dodge Luo Yi's strike. Assessing the situation, Luo Yi ordered his group to quickly leave the cave. The harpy appeared too suddenly and at the most inopportune moment. The third team ran toward the exit but noticed Luo Ding and Luo Yi near the entrance. Luo Yi asked them if they had attracted the flying beast into the cave. However, Luo Hao explained that they had tried to hunt the harpy but had miscalculated their strength, and decided to hide in a cave. Luo Yi doubted their words and asked why the harpy's nest was not marked on the map. The question remained unanswered. Suddenly, the Black Panther leapt out of the cave, its body enveloped in energy, and attacked the people standing at the entrance. Luo Yi tried to repel the attack by channeling his energy into his sword and launching a counter-strike. Two opposing energies collided in battle, either willing to yield. Suddenly, a small stone stake formed between Luo Yi and the panther, causing severe damage to the beast. Luo Ding assured Luo Yi that his team would help restrain the panther. In addition, he offered to lure the harpy to another location, since both beasts were too strong for them to fight together. Luo Yi agreed. The Luo Ding team took responsibility for distracting the harpy. 3 more people ran with him. He instructed them to hold the panther for 10 breaths so that they could lead the harpy elsewhere. At this time, Luo Yi thought, the harpy's nest could not have been unmarked on the map. How were the people following him involved in this? Who were they trying to kill, Luo Yi or Luo Binyan? His thoughts were interrupted by a huge shadow looming over them. Luo Ding ordered everyone to scatter in different directions and run to the trees to lure the harpy. They must not let the panther and the harpy unite. Luo Yi saw the harpy fly over him but not strike. He realized that the demonic beast was under someone's control. Whoever was behind this had spent a lot of resources to achieve this effect. He wondered, was it Luo Tianqin or Luo Tanzing? Running would be useless against the harpy. If Tanzing was behind everything, then Luo Yi could use lightning steps to escape. But if Tianqin was in control, he could defeat him in battle. Meanwhile, Luo Tianqin noticed that Luo Yi was alone. Mentally, he commanded him to prepare for death. He sent a mental order to the harpy to attack Luo Yi. The demonic beast swooped down, dropping to the ground directly in front of the ready-to-fight Luo Yi. He held a sword in his hands, his eyes full of determination. He saw his uncle on the harpy but remained calm. Luo Yi understood Tianqin's intentions. He reflected on how much effort his uncle had to spend to manage the harpy, and how much money it must have cost to control it. Tianqin praised Luo Yi's shrewdness and even predicted a great future for him, but Luo Yi would not follow those expectations. He asked himself not to blame his uncle for the fact that he might not survive. Ignoring Tianqin, Luo Yi was the first to strike. He channeled his Kai through his sword toward the harpy. From the blue energy, the harpy froze midair, leaning back, and became an ice statue. Tianqin stared at the frozen bird in shock. He had no idea that Luo Yi was both so fast and strong. Clearly, Luo Yi was not at the middle stage of the 5th rank. By a miracle, Tianqin himself did not fall under Luo Yi's blow. Determined to attack, Tianqin concentrated his energy into his sword. Using his sword, he split the ice restraining the harpy. However, the harpy did not rise into the sky, it fell like a stone to the ground. Tianqin realized that if Luo Yi could defeat a demonic beast at the peak of the 7th rank, then Luo Yi himself must be at least at the 8th stage. It seemed impossible. Meanwhile, Luo Yi, concentrating the water technique within his sword, attacked Tianqin. The latter drew his sword, jumped back, and sent a surge of light energy toward Luo Yi. The water energy and the light energy converged, creating a massive explosion. The shockwave threw Luo Yi and Tianqin to opposite sides. Tianqin quickly regained his footing and approached Luo Yi. He was well aware that he could not give Luo Yi a chance to strike. Luo Yi flipped in the air, pointing his sword toward Tianqin, signaling his readiness for battle. Tianqin was irritated that he was exerting so much power against a 16-year-old boy standing in a fighting stance with his sword raised high. He concentrated his kai into the sword. With the naked eye, the pure and powerful energy flowing around his body was visible. He blocked Luo Yi's sudden strike. Tianqin understood that the boy should not have survived this encounter. He struck a terrifying blow at Luo Yi, but the latter managed to block it with his weapon. Sparks flew as metal clashed against metal. Their swords could not physically withstand being filled with such immense kai. Both realized with horror that their blades were crumbling. Tianqin was furious that a boy could repel a strike of such force. Jumping back, he sent a pillar of fiery light toward Luo Yi, but the latter deflected it. What is this technique? Tianqin thought. Luo Yi used the lightning steps technique to evade Tianqin's strike and counterattack. Tianqin's body fell to the ground. Luo Yi deduced from the battle that it was not worth standing face to face with an expert. Using lightning steps, he needed to escape as quickly as possible before his blood attracted other demonic beasts. Walking up to Tianqin, Luo Yi took his sword, which was finally broken. After searching his body, Luo Yi found a scroll containing the scripture of the 5-star shadow sword technique, a spear taming technique, and a pill with similar effects. Luo Yi decided not to return to the family yet, as Luo Tanzing would quickly understand who was responsible. He was not in a position to defend himself if attacked. Meanwhile, Luo Tanzing listened to the servant's report. There had been no information about Tianqin. Young Master Luo Ding's team returned 6 days later, but they had learned nothing about Tianqin. Luo Tanzing asked if the 3rd group had returned. The servant replied that they had returned 2 days ago, but Luo Yi was not with them. Tanzing immediately ordered a more careful search for information about Tianqin, and instructed that any findings be reported to him immediately. He was worried about the absence of the 12th brother. The entire mission could not have gone poorly because Luo Yi was far weaker than Tianqin.